Yeah. I'm back. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Yeah, I'm back. Or whatever it is. You feel me? What's going on, everybody? That's right. We are here for February 23rd, 2025, the edition of the Boxing Source podcast. Hopefully, you had a good weekend here. You know what I'm saying? What's good for everybody that's listening live? Shout out to everyone that's listening live. Shout out to the folks that's going to be listening on the replay and everything like that. We got a number of things here that we're going to be talking about in this particular podcast here. Of course, we still are recovering from Riyadh season. Well, not necessarily, literally, at least on my part. But there's still a number of people that were out there in Riyadh that are recovering from being out there for that fight week, man. Listen, I'm still in shock about what went down, about what's going on, what happened, and everything like that. But shout out to everyone that's listening live. We got some folks that's on here already. They used to do the live chat through YouTube and everything, man. Shout out to Jesus Sam in the building. It feels like Beterbiev won the fight 8-4. 8-4. And shout out to Real Prison Talk with Tommy here in the building. What's going on with you? So I guess Jesus Sam, I felt like, Beterbiev won 8-4 in that bout that happened yesterday over in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Of course, I had went live the other day, talking about the fights and things like that, and everything, so that it was just a lot. It's just a lot, man. And I was like, listen, I'm being real with y'all. They should be thankful that this particular fight thing got to the finish line. Because remember, it was supposed to be at Riyadh Arena over there, and then they moved it. I'm like, what is going on here? What are they doing? But I guess it was for precautionary measures or whatever it is. Because listen, like to have this thing going from Kingdom Arena to whatever this venue that they created or moved it to or something, that was just insane. That was like a couple of days before the fights were supposed to take place, and they moved it. I'm like, come on, man. All right, what we got here? Already a question here on the live chat. What's going down? Shout out to Jesus in the building. He says, how does Beterbiev stop counter Bivol fluids so people get food that Bivol won those rounds? So I guess he feels like Beterbiev did most of the fight kind of like counter Bivol's flurries and a number of things that that Beterbiev was doing over the course of the fight that had Jesus Zim feel like Beterbiev won 8 of those 12 rounds yesterday against Dimitri Bivol. From yesterday, I was talking about it yesterday. I felt like it was something that Beterbiev should have, been able to pull off. It looked like, Bivol pretty much like outworked Beterbiev in the majority of the rounds, at least, from a, visual perspective, TV perspective. For me, like I said, I was picking Beterbiev to win. I was picking Beterbiev for the stoppage. And I felt like there were a couple of things that was happening from Beterbiev that was having me upset, while watching it live. And I'm like, what are you doing? I feel like he was being a little bit predictable, particularly with throwing the right hand. And, a lot of the subtle movements that he was doing in the tail end of the fight, I think Bivol was able to get, a hold of. You feel me? Tickets were selling. Man, I don't know, man. Hey, listen, as Riyadh, I don't know how you'd be able to get information for Riyadh and as far as like tickets there for these events. So I don't know. I think in a lot of instances, sometimes these events are semi-private or private, for people that the Riyadh season group invites over to them or something like that. Because, it's, part of a whole slew of events and activities that they have, particularly if it is during Riyadh season. So I don't, just being real, I don't have, any detailed information on that, at least not for now. Might be able to find something, but I don't know. For right now, yeah. Yeah, like I was saying, hey, this is, the Beterbiev, it says, Jesus Sima on the live chat here says Beterbiev needs to go to the body way more and triple jab. Hey, listen, that was the thing that I was literally screaming. I was screaming, go to the body, go to the body. Every time, it almost seemed like every time that Beterbiev was going forward and going right after Dmitry Bivol, it was almost a 1-1-2 every time. 1-1-2, left, left, right, going upstairs. Two jabs and a right hand upstairs. There's occasional like double jab up and then down to the body, or a little bit of a left hook to the body, but no right hooks to the body unless it was something like a combination starting off with the left hook and then following up with the right. But as far as like a lead right hook or something before Bivol gets out of the pocket throwing that right hook, then I didn't see it. And I'm like, yo, what is Mark Ramsey saying? What is John Scully saying? Because I was like, yo, throw that right hook. It's there. If you do that, you pretty much halt the movement of Dmitry Bivol. Now, props to Dmitry Bivol in the corner there. His corner, pretty much like I was saying, it was rubbing him as far as like a towel, just getting him, try to get him loose or get him recovered or something like that. I said maybe they rub some icy hot on the towels or something to get him going. Because listen, for him to have the activity that he had over the course of those rounds, it was crazy. It was wild. It was like another battle of war of attrition. I don't know because some may say that this fight may be even better than the first fight. Well, at least for me, particularly, you had the first few rounds. Like I said, it was a lot of action. Those first few rounds. You know what I mean? And after that the third round, you had Beterbiev like really forcing the issue. Really, at the time I felt getting the better of Dmitry Bivol in a few of the exchanges. And my thing about it too was that he was really affecting Bivol. When Bivol was having a little bit of a high guard, and they were saying it like in a lot of commentary, even with Bivol in a high guard, Beterbiev's punches, just short, sharp, bim, bim, and all that was affecting Bivol, and it could even affected to the point where his glove could rub, all to his face and do something there. But after round six, you had the activity of Bivol pick up a little bit. And he was, sharper there in a sense. I said like after round six, well, even including round six, right? According to CompuBack statistics, that Dmitry Bivol landed more punches than Beterbiev in each round, except for round 10. And I think that maybe that was something that would have been a difference there in this particular fight. Now, one thing I did see that I didn't mention yesterday was in the scorecards. Of course, it was a majority decision win for Dmitry Bivol for him to become the new undisputed light heavyweight champion. But you had one score of 114-114, another score of 116 to 112, and a score of 115 to 113 with those two scores in favor of Dmitry Bivol. Now, I was seeing there with Mike Fitzgerald that had the bout scored at 116, 112, that in two of those rounds, I think it was like round 3 and round 10, he awarded those rounds to Dmitry Bivol. Those were like two rounds that the other two judges had in favor of Artur Beterbiev. If Fitzgerald had round 3 and round 10 in favor of Artur Beterbiev, that was pretty much what make it a majority draw. And I felt like at least for me, I felt like Beterbiev won rounds 3 and rounds 10. So that was the thing about it. Hold on. It says what? Mike Garcia made a living off of the 1-2 until he met Spence, who moved very well. Yeah, I mean that's the thing with Mike Garcia. It was a pretty good fighter there over the course of his career, but was that guy that had that regimen of a 1-2, just did a 1-2, and as long as you're able to throw up that type of timing, then the fighters like that usually don't deviate from that particular offensive game plan. You feel me? All right. Tommy says Beterbiev must have took his testosterone with their early work rate. No, the thing about it is some folks are saying that because of the work rate that he had in the end of the last fight that he did that, but nah, man, he be just doing some crazy workouts, to prepare for his fights. But but you ain't the only one that's had some questions in reference to Beterbiev, and it'll have people being like Dr. Umar. You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious? You know what I mean? So, but I feel like that fight was even better than the first fight. Great performance by both of those fighters to do what they're able to do there in the ring. And what I had to see if I could get something here from Boxing News Plus. I'm going to see if I could get a clip of Dimitri Bivol after the fight there when he was talking about the result and talking with Artur Beterbiev after the fight. So I'm going to see if I could cue this up here in a little bit here. Let me see if I can run this. This is from Boxing News Plus or something like that. So I'm going to see if I can run this clip. This is Dimitri Bivol after the fight with Artur Beterbiev there in the rematch. And yeah, man, it was a brutal one. It was a brutal one.
After the fight, I came to Beterbiev and I told him, Artur, I respect you so much because when I was young and I came to national team, I was looking after you, how you are training, and you were the number one. I really respect you, and I want to shake your hand and say thank you for this fight. And we shake hands. And he said, thank you for the fight also. And this is sport. Yeah, this is what happened. You are a good fighter also. And then we had another talk. He came, but he didn't. But he said, like, I will not shake hand now because we will have third fight. And it was in the normal way, not like arrogant. It was fine. I said, okay, no problem.
Amazing. Thank you.
Hey, that thing where he said like he didn't that right there was that was highly questionable right there. But still, Dimitri Bivol, giving a lot of respect to Artur Beterbiev as he said that he was looking up to Beterbiev as Beterbiev was going up in the ranks there before Dimitri Bivol got on the scene. And you said they had two very, very good fights between the two. Within a 4-month span, you don't necessarily get these instances as the Chef Terrell was talking about yesterday. You don't get an instance where you have a fight of the magnitude that they did have for the undisputed light heavyweight titles, and then have the rematch be 4 months later. And then that they were both able to perform the way that they did in their rematch. It was crazy. It was crazy. He says, see your dance move in the building says, I personally don't want to see a third fight. I'm good. Hey, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, hey, you all heard what Turkey Outlet Sheik was talking about, weeks before this particular fight. They were saying, hey, if Bivol ends up winning, and then they're, have the move to, try to go ahead for a third fight. You know what I mean? But given what Beterbiev was saying immediately after the fight, he was saying, hey, to be honest with y'all, well, not to be honest with y'all, he didn't say that, but he said, man, I didn't even feel like going through with a rematch. You know, he was like, nah. But I guess that's the thing. It's like, what? That's like the first time in a very long time that you've seen, Artur Beterbiev in two fights within that particular time period. Because before 2024, it was pretty much like what, one or two fights a year. You know what I mean? Or it would be like a three, like a, well, not even 3 month gap, but probably like a 8 month gap or something like that, or a 6 month gap in between fights, or it'll be like one fight a year. So for him to have this particular type of a turnaround at 40 years old, no less, that's crazy in itself. You feel me? So with that being said, I mean, that is mainly the big story off of that particular fight. Some people saying that like Bivol versus Benavidez should be next. I mean, it depends. It depends. I mean, Benavidez was in attendance over there in Riyadh. Hopefully, he gets sick. But he was there, watching the fight, and I guess I don't know if he had something to say in reference to that. I have to see if it was on here, or at least on Twitter or something like that. You know what I mean? But he was there, to enjoy the fights. As they did have, two, two, what it is, two light heavyweight bouts on there, as you had Callum Smith there against Joshua Buatsi as well. So and those two light heavyweight fights were pretty much like the best fights of the night, man. Because that Callum Smith Joshua Buatsi was a good scrap between those two fighters, man. So that was and they pretty much had that as the quote unquote pay-per-view opener of sorts there between Joshua Buatsi and Callum Smith. And with Callum Smith, I think that was like one of his better performances that he's had in his career in order for him to get the decision win. So props to Callum Smith. He's the WBO interim championship. So you could have like a maybe if you don't have a Bivol versus Benavidez, you could probably have Benavidez versus Callum Smith for the undisputed interim heavyweight title. I don't know, man, because you got Benavidez with the interim WBC belt, the WBA regular. You might as well call it the WBA interim belt, and then you got Callum Smith here with the WBO interim belt. So it was something, man. Yeah, like Smith did land a good amount of power shots there on Buatsi. I guess that's why one of them scores was like what 119 or 110 or something. You know what I mean? So that was the thing on that. And Tommy on the live chat here says that he was impressed by Virgil Ortiz. I mean, I felt like it was going to be a decision win of sorts there from Virgil Ortiz, because I felt like given what Madrimov did in the fight against Terrence Crawford, I didn't think that he had like enough offense, just on his pace or his offensive output that would have him be able to win most of the rounds going into the fight against Virgil Ortiz Jr. But props for Virgil Ortiz Jr. He was consistent with the attack that he had there from the first round up until the last round. Almost scored a knockdown. At least for me, I felt like he almost scored a knockdown in that fight there, against Israel Madrimov. Two judges had it 7 rounds to 5. One judge had it 9 rounds to 3. I don't know, man. 7 rounds to 5. Watching it live, I didn't feel like it was like 7 rounds to 5. I thought it was close to 9 rounds to 3. I felt like the activity there from Virgil Ortiz Jr. was enough. In that sense, and that he did what he pretty much had to do for most of the fight. You know what I mean? I gotta see if I might be able to try to find the stats on this as far as like the punch stats for it. But not then for me, I just felt like it was more about the overall activity of Virgil Ortiz, and I thought he was much sharper there over the course of the bout. And Madrimov, I just seen him as like just a regular Madrimov, as far as like him doing the movement, stepping in and out and things like that, but not anything necessarily to like use that as doing a counter. If you're gonna like step back or step away, and you can probably like throw some sharp counter punches there in a sense. But if you're not even doing that, then at least for me, what's the point? What's the point of it? So I just felt like it was the inactivity of sorts, you could say, for Madrimov there that said like, hey, Virgil Ortiz was able to get a decision victory on that. Right now, with that being said, right, what would be next for Virgil Ortiz? For me, he could potentially face the IBF champion there in Bakram Murtazaliev. Both of them are undefeated. Both of them at 23-0. Virgil Ortiz at what, 26? Bakram at 32 years old. For the IBF belt. For the IBF belt. I know that they got Virgil Ortiz as the WBC interim champ, but he won't be able to be in a position to fight Sebastian Fundora. At least I don't think so. It's probably more likely that he could get a fight with Bakram Murtazaliev than with Sebastian Fundora. Secret Dance Move says that Virgil Ortiz beats anyone at 154, including Bud Crawford. Well, we'll see. We'll see. You know what I mean? But I think that Madrimov fight would be something to try to see if they can put together. And it would be interesting in the sense for some that follow Virgil Ortiz Jr. because with it being for the IBF belt at 154 pounds, y'all know how the IBF does. Y'all know how the IBF gets down. You make 154, you got to rehydrate up to 164, and that's pretty much it. But if you can't do that, then no, that's no go. And Virgil Ortiz, of course, with this story over the past few years, is that he's had weight issues as far as like what is a condition with his condition. So for him to try to go after the IBF title, that would be an interesting story to say the least. There in that particular front. Now for Madrimov, this is another step back for him. It's his second consecutive loss, and for me, I think there's one fight that's out there that, should have happened or maybe could have happened there in December of last year, and that is a fight with Sergey Bohachuk. So you're going to have two fighters that fought Virgil Ortiz Jr. going up against each other, and it would be a pretty interesting bout between both of them. But at least for me, I would give the advantage to Bohachuk. I think Bohachuk has more within his punch, and could move just about as well as Madrimov in a sense. So I think that he would have the advantage there over Madrimov if they were able to make that fight happen there in the 154-pound division. So that was another one of those good fights, so to speak, out there in that fight card over in Riyadh. You had the Adames versus Shiraz here in the middleweight division for the WBC middleweight title. That ended up being a split draw with Barry Lindenman scoring the bout 118 to 110 in favor of Carlos Adames, and Guido Cavalieri scoring it 115 to 114 in favor of Hamza Shiraz, with Omar Minton Sr. At 114. And some folks are, out there, talking about that Turkey Al Sheikh went up to the corner of Hamza Shiraz, talking about, hey, you're losing by 2 rounds. I was like, what? Hey, listen, this isn't like Timothy Bradley telling Terrence Crawford that he's losing the fight, and Terrence Crawford saying, "I'm up." Wait, what? I'm not up. No, no, it wasn't like that. I was like, yo, that was crazy. You know what I mean? Uh, that was crazy how you have someone that is directly involved with putting the event together, telling one of the fighters that he's behind. Listen, if you're gonna do that, you might as well have open scoring over there for Riyadh season. You're doing something as far as like having an AI judge to be a full judge. Why don't you just go ahead and have open scoring? I mean, come on, what are we doing, man? What are we doing? So my thing about that was, yeah, I pretty much had it like 7-5 Adames, just like a secret dance move here in the chat is saying. It says it's closer than some people say. I mean, yeah, it could be like that. My thing was, the first couple of rounds, you did have Hamza Shiraz being very successful with the jab, throwing it as like a counter punch as he was fighting off of his back foot. And after about like round 3 or round 4, you didn't see as much activity with that jab from Hamza Shiraz. And some folks said that they didn't really see any significant change from Hamza Shiraz until the 11th round, where he went from fighting from a defensive stance to an offensive stance, which I felt like should have been his strategy from the get-go. He's the taller fighter, and he's pretty much like bigger than Carlos Adames there in this sense. And I felt like that could have been the overall difference in the fight. Some people are saying like, hey man, hey, we're trying to do a little thing here now to get Hamza Shiraz the vote. You know what I mean? But hey, you had what we had out there for that one. Yeah, that was the thing too. Is saying yesterday that Hamza Shiraz broke his hand there during the fight. You know what I mean? So that was it. We said Jesus Sim says he scored 11 rounds of Damas. Oh man. But yeah, at the end of the fight, it just had it as a split draw and stuff like that. So hey, who knows if they're gonna revisit that fight? I mean, if they do revisit that fight, or would we be surprised at it one bit? No, not necessarily. So I mean, it is what it is on that. But we have it to the point where Carlos Adames is still the WBC middleweight champion. And he did say here after the fights release, the date, right? He says, hey, I'm undoubtedly a fighter who takes on challenges. I don't see anyone at 160 or 168 who can stop me. I don't know. Is that like a little bit of a hint that he might go to 168 for his next fight? I don't know. But they're saying that he could beat anybody there at 160. I'm not sure, like, he's been around like TGB Promotions or affiliated with TGB Promotions. I think his previous fight was what it was out there in June, right? Last June, when he faced Terrell Gausha over at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, right? So we've had a number of these fights that have been under TGB Promotions. So if you're not gonna have this rematch with Hamza Shiraz revisited, you could have something where, hey, you could have him versus Erislandy Lara, WBC, WBA middleweight championships on the line. Let's see if we could go ahead on go forward with that. Maybe you could have something where it could be maybe July or August or something. Go ahead and have that unification fight. I'm just putting it out there. I'm just putting it out there as a suggestion. there for Carlos Adames. As for Hamza Shiraz, he had like a lot of momentum going into this bout. Had a fairly easy fight against Tyler Denny over at Wembley Stadium. That was like one of those fights that was able to see out there at Wembley Stadium. That was like easy work for him. But I felt like even going into this bout, I felt like he was getting a world title shot way too quickly there. That he needed like a couple more bouts out there. But with that being said, this is the same Hamza Shiraz that got his way up to the top spot in the WBO rankings, if I'm not mistaken, and that he would have been a challenger for the WBO middleweight title there that's held by Zanabek Alamhalala. And if I'm not 100% on this, I can't like necessarily recall, but I think the WBO did call for the fight between Zanabek and Hamza Shiraz to take place, and Hamza Shiraz in his camp said, not quite, so we'll see. Jesus Sims says Adames versus Janabek. Hey, if Adames can move around and fight on different companies and stuff like that, yeah, you can have that too. You know what I mean? So it says the thing with Shiraz is that he broke his hand. His movement was great, just couldn't let his hands go as normal. I mean, hey, we'll see. That probably could be the reason behind them going for a rematch. But we gotta see what happens with Hamza Shiraz and him getting a recovery from that broken hand. So he might be out for a good little bit, about at least 3 months or so before he could get back into camp. So we have to see how that goes there on that front. Now, just quickly moving on up right here. I wanted to talk about this thing here with co-feature bout there real fast. As we were talking about yesterday, Joseph Parker, Martin McCauley. That was crazy. That was crazy. Having Martin McCauley fly in pretty much about like 48 hours before, or pretty much like didn't even make it in time for like the supposed weigh-in there when Joseph Parker was in a face-off with Frank Warren. And Martin McCauley, it looked like they said he was fighting, with the gloves that was supposed to be for Daniel Dubois. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, I don't know like where he got the trunks from. Looked like he bought the trunks from like J.C. Penney or something. I don't know, but hey, they did whatever they could in order to keep that as a co-feature bout. And with it being McCauley instead of Daniel Dubois, it was for the WBO interim heavyweight title, as Joseph Parker was the WBO interim champion. If he faced Daniel Dubois for the IBF title, then he would have been stripped of the WBO interim title. Man, all these belts, man, all these belts. Whatever. Okay, whatever. But he said, but win a couple of rounds. You had Parker, throwing a hook, ended up going over the top of the head of Martin McCauley, and Martin McCauley was doing the shimmy shuffle, before going down to the canvas. He said the world is laughing at McCauley. I mean, I don't know, man. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't make any, little clips of him, doing, like I said, doing the shimmy shake or whatever it is, and probably, putting some music behind it or something. But I don't know. They probably have something floating around here somewhere. Shout out to my guy, brother Clarence, there from No Duck Zone Podcast here, chopping up on the live chat, right? So thing about it is that with them having this happen, Daniel Dubois, of course, got hit with the bug. There's a rumor that one of these fighters was not feeling very well going into fight week. And I was like, hey man, maybe that person is the one that caused all the trouble there during fight week, because man, it was Matt Jamal saying like, hey, 2 weeks ago, he went to the doctor, and the doctor said that he was sick and wasn't ready for the fight, and he said that they didn't want to cancel it. So they had Badgermov in there for 12 rounds, or that he had Badgermov showing up at in Riyadh. I don't know, man. And y'all see what fight week they had like everybody like in the same room or in a little small ring or whatever. I'm like, yo, what are we doing? Come on, y'all. Like if he was compromised, immunocompromised or whatever you want to call it, then they should just say, hey, bruh, it's all right, it's cool, but you're gonna have to sit this one out because like you had Floyd Schofield Jr. getting sick, you had Daniel Dubois getting sick, you had a couple of folks that were part of the Riyadh season card getting sick and barely getting through the week or was able to get recover in time to be out there for the fights. It was insane. It was insane. Clarence Kane says on the live chat, coming to the media workout. No, I'm gonna have to hit you up after the podcast there. In reference to all that, because I won't be able to get out to the thing for fight week for Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach until before the press conference. Said Secret Dan Smooth says a pathetic performance here by Martin McCauley. Compare that to Josh Padley, who was heroic. I'll talk about that there in a minute. And yeah, remember you were saying that the other day that you were being out there over in Saudi, and yeah, it'd be crazy out there. So you, like I said, hey, if there was any way that I'm going out to Saudi Arabia, I'm gonna be out there with like 15 masks on my face or something because hey, nah, man, y'all, hey, I ain't getting hit with no food bug or nothing. Nah, that's crazy. Yeah, a lot of boxers and media people were hit with the virus out there. Yeah, yep. You know what I mean? So it was insane. Like I said with Ford Schofield Jr. with Daniel Bois. Reports said Mr. Thomas also got hit with a food bug out there. And as I was mentioning there, Islam Madrimov said that he was sick going into fight week. So yeah, that was some insane stuff there. What was happening over in Riyadh, and hopefully that doesn't happen again. You know what I mean? But yeah, I wanted to, you had the thing there with that co-feature about Joseph Parker getting the TKO over Martin McCauley. For Parker to defend the WBO interim heavyweight title. I'm not sure what the order is for the unified belts for the heavyweight titles, but maybe they could have the WBO have Parker be next in line for Alexander Usyk. Now, I wanted to bring in a guest here. Speaking of heavyweight boxing, okay, this person here has been, of course, a long-time panelist on the Boxing Source podcast, and he is a connoisseur of the heavyweight division. Listen, I'm not going to say what he says in reference to two heavyweight fighters in the ring, so I'll let him go ahead and say it himself. That's our guy, Brother Matt from Bunch Boxing in the building. What's happening, Brother Matt?
Hey, listen, I'm so happy to be on here, man, and I'm so happy that I jumped in right when you was talking about the meat because that is my favorite subject, and there was a lot of meat slinging going on in Riyadh, halal meat, one might say. Shout out to Joseph Parker. You were talking about what might be next for him. The WBO is going to order that Usyk fight because he is the WBO mandatory, and the WBO mandatory hasn't been defended, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, since Joshua versus Usyk, which was a very long time ago. So that's overdue. The WBC mandatory, WBC don't do whatever. They're not gonna really push for it. So I think Alexander Usyk now has a very interesting decision to make. Does he go straight into a Daniel Dubois rematch, or does he fight Joseph Parker instead? In any event, I think there's nothing but good options for big fights. All you got to do with heavyweights It's just put the names in the hat, mix and match, and you still got a good matchup anyway.
Yeah, and I gotta see what the update's going to be here with Daniel Dubois. Hopefully, in a few days, I might have to table it for like the following week because I got in contact with a couple of sources there that was out there in Riyadh, pretty much like close to Daniel Dubois, and they said it was a crazy situation there for him to end up getting sick during fight week, and they'll have more information on what's going to be happening with Daniel Dubois pretty soon, but they just couldn't really talk about it at the time that I got in contact with them. So with that sense, with Joseph Parker getting the stoppage or pretty much getting the KO win over Martin McCauley, keeping that WBO interim title, you're going to have the new WBO president. There was a Gustavo Olivieri there that could go ahead and have the mandatory ordered for Joseph Parker and Alexander Usyk for him to go for the unified world titles there. You know what I mean? So that's going to be an interesting situation, as you said. But I just got to see what the overall status is for Daniel Dubois. And pretty much, I would say a couple weeks from now. That's probably when I could get more information there for Daniel Dubois. And you talk about one heavyweight fight, and then you had another heavyweight fight in there with Agit Kabayel getting the stoppage win over Zhilei Zhang. And it was just a couple of rounds there for Zhilei Zhang to try to get the win, but you just seen Agit Kabayel just chopping away. It was like chopping the tree down. It was almost like chopping the tree down. He would take a few punches, block a few, but use some good head movement or something like that, and then get to the inside and work the body. And he was able to wear down Zhilei Zhang, I say up until like the fourth round or so, right? And it was like in round 5, I felt like it was about to be over for Zhilei Zhang because I was seeing him throw them punches, and I was like, Zhilei Zhang really doesn't have that much behind his punch. And then all of a sudden, bam, and he puts Kabayel to the canvas, and I'm like, oh no. And so I thought, he was able to get back into the mix or whatever it is. But nope. Kabayel got up, continued to do what he was doing, chopping down the tree, and just eventually the tree fell, man. The tree fell and got knocked out by a body shot there for Agit Kabayel. So his, overall activity, he's been able to do very well here in this run, in this Riyadh season run. Having a win over Alexander Makhmudov, Frank Sanchez, and Zhilei Zhang. There were all stoppage or KO victories there. So he's like right in the mix there as the WBC interim heavyweight champion. You did explain the situation there with the WBC is probably going to be a good little minute before you do have Agit Kabayel in line for a world title shot. And I mentioned it earlier. It said like from some time ago that Agit Kabayel and Joseph Parker aren't necessarily interested in fighting each other. So that was it on that, man. It said that Agit Kabayel just signed with Queensberry Promotions. Yeah. And he also says what Zhilei Zhang had got that knockdown, so he's still the biggest puncher in the heavyweight division, but the worst stamina. And he said like that he said he'll be back too. So I wanted to see if I could pull that up. But Matt, what did you think about that particular heavyweight bout?
No, I thought Kabayel did an excellent job. He was able to beat Zhang up and get him out of there. He has established himself as one of the better heavyweights in the world. Now, whether or not that's going to mean anything in the grand scheme of things when it comes to getting a big fight remains to be seen. He is with the right guy because Frank Warren knows what he's doing with heavyweights. And every year, Frank Warren puts on this what's called heavy duty card that he does every year with just heavyweights. So he is with the right promoter. I thought it was a great performance. And happy retirement to Zhilei Zhang because he looked like he ain't got it no more.
Well, he looked like he ain't got it no more, but then he went on Instagram and said what he said on here. What he said. Not my night came up short in the ring, but fought to my last bit of energy. Congrats to Aga Cabio and Turkey. Thank you to Turkey Allah Sheikh for this unique experience, and thank you to Queensberry Promotions and DAZN Boxing for hard work. Thank you to my team. I'm not done yet. Big Bang will be back. So, all right, Big Bang will be back, or whatever he would kind of say in that sense. So, I don't know. Maybe they got something else lined up, but what in the world could they do with him? That's my question. Like, who would they have out there to fight? You did mention there with Queensberry Promotions that they do have a good number of heavyweights. They should have one fight coming up here, if I'm not mistaken, with Dylan White versus Joe Joyce, right? So I think that is going to be a Queensberry card here coming up on April 5th. So I don't know, maybe Dylan White. If Dylan White, whether it's a win or lose for Dylan White, maybe Zhilei Zhang fights Dylan White or something. But outside of that, I don't know, what could be in line for Zhilei Zhang after having this stoppage loss here, particularly with him being at the age that he's at right now. They're in the heavyweight division, and
why don't we put him against Frank Sanchez, who returned last night to the winner's circle? Frank Sanchez is probably going to want a bigger fight. Let's do Zhang versus Sanchez.
Yeah, both of them have been involved in the thing there with Riyadh season, of course, with Sanchez losing to Cabello. But then coming back here in Tijuana, Mexico against Ramon Olivas Echeverria there in Tijuana, Mexico. So maybe they get Frank Sanchez back on there for the Riyadh season to be there against Zhilei Zhang down the line. Who knows? Because they do have Riyadh season does have a good set of fights that are coming up. A number of fight cards that are coming up here, as Turkey Allah Sheikh was stating, with maybe at least one there in May, well, at least a few in May. From what he's talking about, a couple in the summer. Canelo in September, the bout in October supposedly between Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney, and then probably have another card there in December. So there's that. Speaking of that, Matt, what were your thoughts about Turkey Al Sheikh talking about that supposed or that tentative schedule for the rest of 2025?
We'll wait and see. I mean, last year Turkey Al Sheikh said that they were going to do a 5 versus 5 U.S. versus UK in December, and that didn't happen. So, listen, with boxing, you never know. Let's just wait and see. Let's see what he announces.
Yeah, because we first, got to get through what this next thing coming up there with Eubank versus Ben in April, and then after that, we have what's going on in May. He said something in reference to Canelo in May, but that remains to be seen there. And I know that Brother Matt has something something to the effect of a rumor report when it comes to Canelo Alvarez, that maybe September could be a little bit different than what some of us have projected for Canelo Alvarez. Now, another panelist here to join us here for the Boxing Source podcast, of course, is our longtime columnist here. The Boxing Academic is in the building. What's going on?
Hello, everyone. How's your night going?
I'm chilling. I did have a long nap earlier today, so I'm semi rejuvenated.
So you straight?
Yeah, I'm good.
I think I realized something.
What it was?
I realized I think Matt was mad at me like 2 weeks ago because I showed him stats against Clarissa Shields, and I think that's why he was mad at me, and he showed it publicly on the Twitter Spaces. And then he had a little time to like separate himself from like the reality, so he wasn't as like emotionally invested in it. And then I don't think he was as mad anymore. I think I realized that.
Oh man, those hey, as long as you weren't one of the folks that thought that Clarissa Shields actually smoked some weed, then, like,
Yeah, I'm not gonna even humor that. Like
yeah,
the lady is a champion, and whether she did or didn't smoke some weed, I mean, what they got to do with? I get it. It is a performance enhancing drug, quotation marks, but like, are we serious? I'm not. I'm not gonna even
No, no, no,
dignify
no,
that.
no. Let me stop you right there. It is not a performance enhancing drug, and even the WADA guidelines say that it's not a performance enhancing drug. The reason why it is on the banned substance list, which is different from being a PED, is because it fits the other two criterias, which are they're saying that it is against the spirit of the sport and that it poses health risks to the athletes. They literally said in the WADA code that it's not a performance enhancing drug. So I
Ex-
do want to correct that. And
ex-
and
ex-
and I also got to
excuse me.
say, I wasn't upset at you because of your stats. I'm not upset at you at all. Although I am a little bit upset because you told me you was gonna buy a Brunch Boxing T-shirt and then you changed your mind. So I
I
am
mean,
a little bit upset with that.
after you told me it cost $60, I mean,
You say 60, I said 50. It's $10 difference. 50. It's 50.
oh man. Now the thing with the whole marijuana stuff or whatever it is, I guess Michigan has it to the same as what Texas has it, because if y'all recall, when Keyshawn Davis had his fight against Nahir Albright, I think that was what 2023, and ended up being changed to a no contest because of him having a positive test for marijuana. So yeah, so that's that. Now,
yeah. So I meant banned substance. I didn't mean performance enhancing drug. I meant banned substance. Thank you,
so
Matthew, for correcting me.
all right. So that being said, yeah, academic on here was going through the fight card there once again, but I wanted to go ahead with this thing here with Shakur Nafisa Stevenson getting a stoppage win over Josh Padley. There, of course, Josh Padley was coming in there in place of Floyd Schofield Jr., who also got hit with a flu bug, but according to some reports, that he was dealing with issues with weight over the course of the time that he was training there. So one way or another, that still could have been a problem there for Floyd Schofield Jr. But you still had this fight took place. Now with Shakur Stevenson, I hadn't seen if they said something with him hurting his hand, his left hand, or something, because it looked like it during the course of the fight. But he was still able to get the stoppage over Josh Padley with a dedicated attack to the body. And now his confidence is through the roof, and he feels like, oh, nobody can beat me, and you gotta, they're saying like, oh, we're gonna be going after a Tank Davis fight or something like that, and I'm like, call me when that actually happens. Call me when that actually happens. Um, Now that I have Matt on here, here's my question when it comes to that. You have Shakur Stevenson that is under Matchroom Boxing, okay? Supposedly Matchroom Boxing USA, as they would say. So, with the fighters that have been signed under Matchroom Boxing USA, how many of them have been able to secure a big fight under Matchroom Boxing? Matt, would you be able to have an answer to that?
It depends. Is Boots versus Stanionis a big fight?
In the course of, I guess, the welterweight division or the current state of the welterweight division, you could say that it's a unification bout.
So if it counted as a big fight, I would say two. I would say Boots against Danny Otis, and then Berlanga got the Canelo fight.
Okay, yeah.
But that's it. That's it.
Mhm. Okay, so and someone else said like maybe Dimitri Bivol with the Canelo fight.
He ain't American.
Yeah, but
I only
he
care
in
about
America.
Americans.
Yeah,
He ain't American.
yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to big or high magnitude fights there under Matchroom Boxing for fighters that are based in the U.S. So with Shakur Stevenson, yeah, I'm not highly confident that they will be able to secure a bout with Tank Davis here later this year. So you might as well wait it out to see if Zepeda gets through that rematch against Tevin Farmer or something. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's the thing, man. I ain't really see much from that. Didn't really get that much out of the fight there with Josh Padley. I thought it was, yeah, he was able to get a stoppage victory. That's his first stoppage victory since his win over Shichiro Yoshino back at the Prudential Center in 2023. But for some, they feel like if Shakur Stevenson is this very talented fighter out there in the lightweight division, that he should be able to easily wash some of the fighters that he's faced over the course of his pro career, like a Comsesau or a Artem Haratunian. She'll be able to go through those fighters, but he hasn't necessarily done that. Now, on another sense, there with Shakur Stevenson, there had also been some back and forth talk between Shakur Stevenson and a fighter that he could have faced, and that is Frank Martin. And they revisited the whole thing as far as like what happened to where Shakur Stevenson and Frank Martin fell out for a fight that was supposed to happen over in Las Vegas there, and it ended up being Edwin De Los Santos. And for those just say this real quick, okay? The situation that they had with Top Rank at the time was that they were pretty much given a solid of sorts, because it was during Formula One week out there in Las Vegas. That was the big event. That was the thing that was carrying the whole week. And so they were trying to, get some events put together to surround that Formula One. And one of those things was to have a boxing event. So they, had Top Rank. They hit up Top Rank and said, "Hey, if you're able to have a fight card over here in Vegas, we'll pretty much like cover it up to a certain point, right?" So they said, "Yeah, let's do it." So in a sense, Top Rank, they basically had a budget of sorts in order to make a fight card, and that included Shakur Stevenson. So with Shakur Stevenson, they had to have an opponent out there for him. And well, if they don't necessarily have enough out there for the opponent, then I guess in Frank Martin's case, he's like, "Listen, if y'all can't go up a little bit more, I can't help you. Can't help you." So that's pretty much been the gist of it. Now, this could probably be confirmed because it's not like those two parties at the time haven't been able to work fights together. I mean, we're talking about Top Rank and what's out there at TGB PBC, where you had a great example: Terrence Crawford versus Sean Porter. So they've been able to work, do a number of deals together. So if they wanted to, they could have tried to work that deal between Shakur Stevenson and Frank Martin. It was just that, hey, it was a situation where they only had a set budget for what they were doing for that particular weekend. It wasn't like that was what you would say, the top billing for that weekend over in Las Vegas. So everything was focused on, the Formula One racing thing there at Las Vegas. So that's the gist of that one, right? So yeah. So for the time being, yeah, that is mainly the whole thing in reference to the fight card over there at Riyadh season. Now, wanted to get y'all's thoughts on the card in general and how things were handled. I'm going to start first with brother Matt. What did you think of the card on that day and how they handled fight week?
I think that the card was great. I gave the card an A. Fight week was a fucking shit show. I think it kind of took away my excitement leading into the card because I'm like, this is just it's just way too much going on. And uh but the actual card was really damn good, and I loved the pacing. They actually got the fights in and out, in and out, in and out.
Yeah.
That's what they need to do from now on. There was no concert, there was no podcast in between every fight. This is how they should do the fights from now on
Mm-hmm.
with Riyadh season. So I did enjoy that. The Shakur fight, I gotta tell you, I am perpetually unimpressed by Shakur Stevenson. Every time he fights, I just don't care. Like he needs to fight better opposition. He just needs to fight. I understand that Josh Padley was a last minute replacement, but let's not pretend like Floyd Schofield Jr. was a great opponent. Also, it just I want to see him against Zepeda. I want to see him against Tank, and I want to see him against Keyshawn. That's what I want to see. Fight the top guys in your division. Enough of the bullshit.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing about it. I mean, you had the opportunities out there to have fights against these top guys within the lightweight division. With Shakur Stevenson, he was able to win a world title there at 126 pounds with the WBO featherweight title. He moved up to 130, won the 130-pound title against Mel Herring, and then unified against Oscar Valdez. And now he's at 135. Was able to acquire the WBC belt at 135, and so now it's pretty much like times. It's about that time for him to have those type of fights, and we got to see if he's going to be able to put himself in a position to have those fights, whether it's against a Tank Davis, whether it's against a Keyshawn Davis, whether it's against a Vasyl Lomachenko. At least for me, given that he was able to sign with Matchroom instead of re-upping with Top Rank, that makes it, at least I feel, a little bit more difficult for him to go ahead and have those fights against a number of those fighters. So Zepeda, like I said, he has that upcoming rematch with Tevin Farmer. If he gets through that, then maybe we have this bout between Stevenson and Zepeda later this year. But then after that, if the demand ain't there, like to the point where both fighters get what they want, and the people involved are able to get a good return on it, I'm not too confident about a Tank Davis versus Shakur Stevenson happening, at least not this year. So we have to see what happens in that sense. Boxing Academic, what did you think about the card overall there?
I thought it was a good card. The fights, the sort of buzz around the initial card brought in the necessary attention that it needed to bring. Obviously, with certain illnesses and bugs and stuff flying around, we know it got altered, and the fights we got were still, decent fights. Well, most of them. And, echoing brunch boxing sentiments. Yeah, Shakur's fights, man, it hadn't been interesting for me. I personally don't look forward to them, and I'm just being transparent. I'm not sugarcoating it, and it's really time for him to step up. Sure, this was not his fault. I feel like I'm just echoing what he's saying because he said everything I feel. It wasn't his fault, but you got to fight somebody that you got to raise the level and give people a reason to follow you, because with your style, it's and then the fight where you was on at like 1 o'clock and just like a sparring match in the sense, like it ain't unforgivable, but yeah, you got a knockout. But even with the knockout, I'm sure people probably aren't that impressed because I mean, you fought a guy with short notice, and like Dan Smooth said, if the guy probably had a full camp, he probably would have went the entire distance with you. Yeah, we speculating, but I mean, he looked talented enough that he very well could have went the distance. I mean, you can't take nothing away from what Shakir did, because I mean, he had a good sort of plan going to the body, and I like that for him, because you know, maybe that makes him more dangerous for these guys. But he got to fight somebody better, because with his style, people tired of seeing. I'm tired of seeing this. Like, give us something better. And then, you know, the main fight went how I thought it would go. In that, the only thing that I think again was different from the first fight, because to me it was like a mirror image, except up until round 8 or 9 when Bivol got greedy, and then he got greedy, and then he got caught with a shot, and then he was always either getting hurt post that shot, and or he was just sort of afraid too of getting hurt. And so he did the same thing, got in, got out, countered, and he just didn't throw that fourth shot. He only threw 3 at most, and he didn't get greedy. And he took a somebody said something because you're smiling.
Yeah, reference to Josh Padley. He said,
okay.
He's Cap Quest, shout out to Cap Quest. He said that Padley had to use his PTO to fight.
I mean, you might as well say that. Like, come on, we need to see you. Okay, it wasn't your fault, but we got to see you raise your level. Like, you're not doing yourself any favor with the fans, because everybody's gonna always be on what's the 3 fighters that Matt just named earlier? Everybody gonna always be on either Tank,
Keyshawn,
and
he had Lomachenko at least at the very
and even Lomachenko's side, because even Lomachenko fought people that on paper could beat him, and dare I say it, did beat him. So you gotta raise your level. The main fight though. So yeah, he did what he's supposed to do, and he didn't get greedy. And so he made either a tactical sort of move, which was in those middle 3 rounds where he lost like handsomely. He either took a tactical move to just rest, and or he got hurt, and then he just didn't do nothing in them rounds, and then that allowed Better BF to let some steam off, and then he being Bivol was able to finish the fight strong, and then at least get one of the last 2 rounds, which definitely helped him keep his lead in the fight. But the countering and the moving and walking Better Bivol to shots, and then taking that strategic rest and not getting greedy, that was his recipe for success.
Yeah, and you know, I felt like there were a couple of exchanges that they had where Bivol was first, and then he made sure that he was last as well in the exchanges. So you know, that was the thing about it. But I just felt like it was a good bout until those like last 2 rounds where Bivol just used his overall energy and activity in order to get the win. Secret Dance Move says that he doesn't want to see a third fight. He doesn't see what would be different. Just call it 1-1, walk away. But I mean, given the quality of those 2 fights, that's it's creating the demand for the third fight. At least for me, from a fan's perspective, I think this is much better than when folks were building up Canelo versus Golovkin. I ain't like the first fight, I ain't like the second fight, and I damn sure didn't want the third fight to happen, and it still happened. So I mean, like, that's what we ended up getting there, especially with it being that last bout being in the super middleweight division. So I'm like, come on, man. What? Yeah, I didn't think that there should have been a third fight between those 2, but with this, yeah, it's potentially going to happen. But given both of their conditions here at this particular point, I don't see it happening until maybe mid to late October at the earliest. So that's what I feel on that one.
So I got a comment to that comment. Yeah, so the thing is with boxing, if Bivol keeps the same plan, then ideally he should win. But humans are so fickle that maybe he don't keep the same sort of mental sharpness, and maybe he doesn't do everything to the T that he did, and maybe he gets hurt again. I think with this type of fight, because the only reason why in that first fight, it favored Beterbiev toward the middle and end is because he caught him with a clean shot. He didn't catch him with a clean shot. This fight, he could very well catch him with a clean shot. You know, yes, it's unlikely. Yes, the sort of tape is out on him where you like move away and then walk him into shots and then you counter him and stuff. But maybe Bivol gets greedy. Maybe he, you know, I'm gonna tell you one thing that I didn't like that Matthew stirred up the brunch box and stirred up the pot on is Bivol's ex-wife. And I saw you know, I'm sorry, I'm skipping the subject here, but I saw a post where like she was pissed off or something like that that Beterbiev didn't win. It's just kind of tacky, man. You know, like it's hard to get into other people's business, but it's just I don't know. It just feels sort of.
Yeah. I saw that post too. You know, that's of course with what had been going on outside of the ring there between Bivol and, or is it Katerina or something like that? I think that's what the name is.
Yeah, it feels distasteful. It's kind of distasteful.
So,
like she hating more than the man who lost his wife or something. You know, it's just I don't know.
Yeah,
I know you didn't want that on here, so yeah.
I mean that's part of it sometimes here with boxing. You know, like I was saying with the whole thing behind the scenes with the Riyadh season card in general and how it was handled. Like I was saying, I was like that getting over the finish line was crazy there. But they were still able to pull it off. Shout out to Cap Quest in the building here. He says that he doesn't necessarily need a third fight between the two. He would rather see David Benavidez versus one of them. David Benavidez versus Dimitri Bivol for the undisputed light heavyweight title. That would be a very interesting bout there. But that might be a poll question there. Would folks rather see a rematch a third fight, or would they rather see David Benavidez against either one of them there next and see what the people would choose there in that particular sense. But that's mainly there what I wanted to cover there for the aftermath of the Riyadh season card. We're probably going to get more information in the next couple of days about what some people felt like going out there during fight week and dodging the flu bug and all that type of stuff. So that's something right there. But we're going into the next week. There, of course, we got like a lot of fights coming up on March 1st. Y'all don't forget what coming up in about what is it, like 7 hours or something like that on ESPN Plus. There's going to be a fight card over in Tokyo, Japan, headlined by Junto Nakatani versus David Cuellar. Of course, Nakatani is one fighter that Mr. Matt is kind of disappointed in because he still ain't unified. Like you having a fight against David Cuellar. And then on, what is it, baby? The co-feature, you're going to have Shia Susumi fighting Daigo Higa for the WBA bantamweight title. You mean to tell me that y'all couldn't have those two fighters against each other for unification? Like, what are we doing here? And then you're also going to have Tenshin Nasukawa versus Jason Maloney there. So it's like an all bantamweight type of fight card on ESPN Plus. That'll be at 3 a.m. Eastern time. Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna stay up for that. I don't know if I'm gonna wake up early for that. We'll see. But I'll see if I'll be able to catch any of those fights live. If not, then I'll catch the replay. Of course, they're on ESPN Plus. But we're pretty much days away from the fight over at Barclays Center, Brooklyn, New York. Devontae Tank Davis versus Lamont Rose Jr. for the WBA lightweight title. Of course, you got Lamont Rose Jr. there. He is the WBA super 130-pound champion there, going into this fight against Tank Davis. Of course, who, as some say, the face of boxing. It's going to be a great card on pay-per-view. 4 fights on there pay-per-view. Barclays Center is going to be pretty much sold out, and looks like it's going to have a crazy gate for this particular fight card. I think the last time they had Tank Davis out there against Rolly Romero, that I think the gate almost reached 5 million there at the Barclays Center. So this one here, you pretty much have the same thing, especially with the number of these fighters that are going to be on the card, right? They're pretty much from the DMV area. I think they had recently filled out the fight card, and you have, of course, there in the main event. You got two fighters there that are pretty much close to the same area. You're going to have also Gary Antoine Russell, Jarrett Hurd. You're going to have David Whitmire. You're going to have Nasheed Smith. You're going to have Derek Scooter Davis on there. That's going to be part of this fight card. All of them are, around the DC area. So it's going to be really packed out there for this particular fight and this fight card. So definitely, looking forward to it. Brother Matt, I think you will be out there for the fight week. Not sure if you're going to make it out to the workout, but I'm not sure if I'm going to make it to the workout. But I know that I'll be around there for the press conference coming up on Thursday. So, what are your thoughts about this upcoming fight weekend? How psyched are you for this fight week?
Well, I think it's a huge fight week, starting with tomorrow morning, 4 a.m. on ESPN Plus. We got the card from Japan with my guy, the Brunch Boxing Bellini Award winner for Prospect of the Year, Tenshin Nasukawa. He's going up against Jason Maloney. You also have Daigo Higa, Seiya Tsutsumi, the rematch. And then you have the Mexican General David Cuellar going up against Junto Nakatani. I know a lot of people are not familiar with Cuellar, but I'm telling you right now, this is a real fight. This is because Cuellar is very offensively gifted, and I would not be surprised if he upsets Nakatani in the morning. Now, as it pertains to the fight that's happening on Saturday, this is another big event. It's Tank Fight Week again. I know you were talking about him coming close to the record that he did with Rolly. Well, I've been told that they already blew past that. So he already broke his own record. So for a fight that people claim nobody cared about, it seems like a lot of people want to be there. And I hope that the event lives up to the pomp and circumstance that a Tank Fight Week always does. I'm really looking forward to Gary Antoine Russell versus Rayo Valenzuela. And God damn it, I'm looking forward to Tank versus Roach. I know a lot of people like to downplay Roach, but one thing about Lamont Roach is he's a fucking dog, and he's going to fucking bring it. And that's what I want to see. I want to see guys that's going in there to fight. He's going to go in there. He's going to try his best. He's going to fight. He's going to bring the fight to Tank. And like I've been saying, this fight reminds me of the Leo Santa Cruz fight. I think it kind of plays out like that, where it seems like Tank is having a little bit of trouble early till he figures it out. I think that's what's going to happen here, and I'm looking forward to this big event.
Now, you did have a list there on Brunch Boxing of, if I'm not mistaken, motherfuckers who can fight. And I think, well, you didn't necessarily mention it on there, but I mentioned one fighter that would be on the list, and that is Gervonta Tank Davis. So you could have two guys in there that who's going to fight, and they're going to give the people a show on March 1st there. So definitely looking forward to that. Got Leo Ryo versus Russell and Sandro Martin versus Alberto Puello are both really good fights there. So, and I had a couple of clips of when they had the conference call with both within both of those fights, and I was able to ask questions to all of those fighters there in reference to those upcoming fights on March 1st there. That's going to be at the super lightweight division with the WBC and the WBA titles on the line there. And of course, we had a conversation with Gary Antoine Russell. One in the gym, and then we had one here like the other day. Also, brother Matt from Brunch Boxing did have a conversation with Gary Antoine Russell, and one of the things there that he brought up was, of course, with the transition of Gary Russell Sr. It's been like pretty much a few years there since that happened. That was something that really got to Gary Antoine Russell there at that particular point. And if y'all are familiar with them over at the gym over in Capitol Heights or around that Capitol Heights area, that you still have a number of pictures there with Gary Russell Sr. Feature on there. So that's something there. So I'll of course during fight week I'll catch up with them over the course of the week, and looking forward to his fight here against Jose Rayo Valenzuela there for that WBA super lightweight title that Rayo will be defending here in this particular sense. It's going to be a real interesting bout too, because you got Rayo, of course, with what is it, Robert Garcia there in this corner now. So he's had him there for the past couple of fights that he's had. So we'll see how Rayo is able to deal with Gary Antoine Russell here in this particular bout. And Russell is like he's zeroed in, he's locked in for this bout, and he wants to go ahead and unify or eventually become undisputed there at 140, and he wants to get back with Alberto Puello too. So we got to see how that goes with that. You got the Sandro Martin versus Alberto Puello for the WBC belt. You're gonna have Yoenis Tejas versus Julian J. Rock Williams there in the super welterweight division. I think that's going to be for the WBA interim title there at super welterweight. So that is the 4 fights that'll be on Amazon Prime pay-per-view, and you're gonna have on the PBC on Prime Video and whatnot. You're gonna have Jared Hurd versus Johan Gonzalez there, and you're gonna have Gio Lopez versus Gormati Matusha or whatever whatever it is, man. Sometimes you stumble looking at some of these names, you don't necessarily know.
About that fight. I think they changed the opponent.
Oh wait, hold up. Let me see if they did if they got some on here with that.
So the opponent that
the original
that
opponent
communication sent out is different
Yeah.
than the opponent on
the box
that's
track.
different than the opponent in the email that they sent out.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be like
So
Alex Demogani,
the one in the email that they sent out.
So
they sent out, Alex Demogani.
Yeah, because Demogani, he was on that fight card and the Pro Box fight card where he lost he lost that bout pretty much in a bloodbath there over in the DC last summer. But yeah, he was originally scheduled to be the opponent there for Gio Lopez. So I don't know what happened though. I have to see what
So are we sure that the email isn't correct and it's not this other guy that's on the box track?
Because I would have thought that they would have sent something, to the effect of like saying, hey, we have a replacement here for it. Because at the do they have it's only the main card that they have for the workout and stuff like that. And yeah, the thing that we got for the fight week, they still have Alex Demogani, on for the presser. So I don't know. Yeah, I thought it was interesting that BoxRec would have that on there.
Are y'all ready for my comments on the fight, or we go confirm the fight details for next week? So
go ahead, academic. Go ahead.
What we doing?
Go ahead.
I was playing. I think that I think Lamont Roach gonna get knocked out. If I'm just being honest, I think he's gonna get knocked out. What's my boy name who was in Spence camp before he left to Spence
Frank
camp?
Martin. Who are you talking about, Frank Martin?
Frank Martin. I think it'll be a better fight than Frank Martin, but I don't see him making it out of this fight. I don't.
So do you see it similar to what Matt was saying as far as like it being like the Leo Santa Cruz fight, or more of like that Frank Martin fight?
in that him getting knocked out in a spectacular knockout to end the fight, yeah, I see it being probably the same in that way. But how it happens, I mean, I do agree that Lamont Roach has a pride about himself, and he will probably it might be a competitive for a few rounds, but I don't think this is gonna bode well for him. I'm not sure how it's gonna go down, but I recall watching a couple fights where, you know, like Shakira is not very exciting, but I think in some ways, let's say like he move his head from the spot that he throw the punch. And I'm not saying Lamont Roach does that or doesn't do that, but I think there's gonna be opportunities for him to get hit and get hit clean. Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna end well for him.
So you don't really see a path of victory there for Lamont Roach Jr. And my guy Cap Quest here says Lamont Roach is getting stopped quicker than Josh Padley.
I think he's gonna get bludgeoned. Like, I think it's gonna be a point to where it'll probably be like the Frank Martin fight, where Frank Martin was so sort of like he was mentally checked out because he had gotten hit so much, and he was just sort of like he wasn't surviving in the sense where somebody just go around the ring and don't engage and survive like you don't get hit for the rest of the round type of surviving, but it was more like he was a deer in headlights sort of surviving, like he was shocked in a sense, like he was like, what am I gonna do? Like that's what I got from Frank Martin, when he like, shit, what am I about to do? And then, you know, then the fight ended, right? So I think a similar thing gonna happen where Lamont Roach is gonna be like, shit, you know, like he gonna get hit a few times and like, what the fuck am I gonna do? But the thing with him, I think he at least gonna swing. I feel like Frank Martin just kind of like went into the light. Like, I don't think, you know, like, I'm not saying he didn't try. He tried, obviously, but I would hope that what's his name goes out swinging. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I mean, that's what Matt was talking about. He feels like Lamont's going to be in there. He's going to fight, you know, and that he's going to make it a fight. You know what I'm saying?
That's fair.
And, you know, my thing is that, you know, both fighters, you know, have some type of familiarity with each other. They've been around the same area and things like that. So I think it's going to be a pretty good tactical battle there for those first few rounds. And actually, it might be a little bit similar to Tank Davis's fight with Hector Luis Garcia in a sense, as far as like from a tactical perspective. But, you know, it's going to, when it gets down to the trenches there within that second half of the fight, then we're going to see, you know, what Lamont Roach Jr. is going to do. And the thing is like a number of people feel that Lamont Roach doesn't have a punch or, you know, pretty much like enough power to make Tank Davis respected, but we'll see how that goes in that instance. Now,
and my question is, does he have the tools to box him and sort of keep him honest and then land shots, sort of like we saw in this last fight, the last main fight? Not how he did it, but, you know, essentially that same essence where he's, you know, boxing enough and then landing shots. Does he have the tools to do that? I'm not sure. I don't know.
I mean, you know, he's had, you know, the performances that he had against, you know, Hector Luis Garcia back in 2023, and then his last fight against Fergal McCrory there, you know, here in the DC area, you know, where he was able to eventually stop McCrory there in that bout. But you know, as was mentioning, is that enough to have it to the point where he got something that'll make, you know, Tank Davis respect him? You know what I mean?
But Tank Davis do only throw one shot at a time, and, you know, he ain't setting shots up like he need to. So, I mean, it could go a little longer because he ain't setting shots up and he just throwing big shots.
Word. Shout out to my guy there, Rich Mancuso. Keep it in the ring there. You know, of course, a long time columnist there over in the New York area, things like that. He said, hold up, what we got? Dante's boxing talk in the building says everybody thought that Roy Jones was going to watch Tarver, and history matters sometimes. Yeah, but the thing is like those two fights that Lamont Rhodes Jr. and Tank Davis had there in the amateurs, they said was pretty close for those two bouts. It's just that Tank ended up getting a nod in those bouts. It says Secret Dance Move on the chat here. It says Tank will just stalk him for a few rounds before he sees the weakness, and then he'll up the pressure. Like he was doing there against Frank Martin, or against Hector Luis Garcia, and a number of the opponents that he's faced there, like Mario Barrios too. So that's what we got on that front. Now, one other thing there in reference to this fight that a few people have kind of like talked about is like in preparation for the bout that for some time you had Tank Davis out there at Headbangers Camp, and some folks are talking about, oh, what's going on here, this that, and the other. But Tank has done work at Headbangers Camp for many years over the course of his professional career. If folks had actually followed Tank Davis for that amount of time, they would have seen that he's been out there with Harris and Barry Hunter for some time now. So thing about it is that he's just going to where he needs to go to sharpen his skills and properly prepare himself for his upcoming bout against Lamont Roach Jr. He's not cutting any corners or anything like that when it comes to Lamont Roach. At least I don't feel like he's doing that. So he'll be really ready for what Lamont Roach Jr. has here in the ring and stuff like that. Matt, you got anything else on this fight?
Just tune in. It's gonna be spectacular. It's gonna be a great fight, great event. I can't wait, man. I can't wait to see every fighter on Wednesday at this workout at Gleason's. I'm gonna make it my business to be there. I want to see how everyone looks at the press conference, see what the energy is like, what the vibe is like, and then obviously I want to see how everyone's making weight at the weigh-in, because I don't really like to make predictions before I see him at the weigh-in. So I'm curious to see, especially with Ryo and Gary Antoine. I want to see how both of them look, man. This is just a great card, a great event, man. Another celebration of boxing in America, man. Boxing in America. What a better place for boxing than the United States of America. And now they're in my hometown of Brooklyn, New York. Al Heyman, proud American. I love it. I love it, man. PBC, America's company.
And I wish I had queued up there for of course our song "I Am a Real American" or something, man. Because we do need a lot of these good big events to be here in America, or particularly the United States within America. Okay, this is where all the big events have pretty much taken place. All the memorable fights over the years, it pretty much like took place here in America. So this whole Riyadh season thing, okay, it's cool, it's it's okay. But you gotta have it in the United States of America. It said like they don't know that Tank worked with Barry Hunter and Kevin Cunningham before. So they had followed Tank for years. They would have seen that, but they some people, some that I don't want to necessarily name, wanted to put out there that there's a rift in the camp of Tank. Come on, man, what are y'all doing? We ain't doing this. We ain't doing this. But definitely looking forward to what's coming up here for Fight Week for that Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach Jr. Bout there at the Barclays Center. And it's going to be a crazy scene out there at the Barclays Center. Hopefully, the vision will be clear, or a little bit clear there at the Barclays Center. For folks that know what I'm talking about. Hopefully, it'll be a little bit clearer there at the Barclays Center during the time of the fights. Oh man, I hope it ain't gonna be crazy in there. But hey, wouldn't surprise me one bit as many times as I've been out there to the Barclays Center, hey, it's a whole different vibe out there at the Barclays Center sometimes, especially for a fight like this or a fight card like this. So there's that.
Why don't you just tell us what you're talking about?
Hey, I'm just saying that a good number of people be floating when they're in the Barclays Center. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh, that's what I thought you were saying, because I think I remember you mentioning this many moons ago when we was at I forgot what fight it was, but
yeah. So you got that there in that fight card. You have former IBF champion at 140 pounds, Subriel Matias, going up against Gabriel Goyaz on the zone over in Puerto Rico. So you have that about that fight card going on. There's going to be a local fight card, out and about here in the DMV area. That's going to happen there with Jeter Promotions. Of course, he had guests here, frequent guests here, Brooklyn Barwick, that's going to be over in Mexico with her pro debut there on March 1st as well. So we do have that. But that's, mainly what's been going on here on the scene here for boxing for this next week. Like I said, I mean, the action is picking up every single week when it comes to the sport of boxing. And we're trying to, keep up with as much as we can here on the Boxing Source. Okay. Now we've had, a series of interviews that have taken place over the course of the previous week. And, we just had, we just had one here too, man. So we definitely been catching up with the number of things that's been going on within the boxing scene, man. So I mean, hey, if y'all can, you could just follow, follow the channel and everything like that. So we got a number of more interviews that is in the works. A number of interviews that are still in the works here for the Boxing Source. Try to get something in for tomorrow. Let's see. Yeah. Try to see if we can get something for tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And at least on Wednesday, we may have the midweek report either earlier or it'll be pushed back until like 9 p.m. Eastern time. I'll probably have it around like 7 o'clock, just be an hour, just about an hour tops. And then we're going to be right back at it on this channel here as we're slated to have another interview scheduled for 9 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. And then after that, we'll be pretty much heading out for the rest of the fight week festivities there for Tank Davis versus Lamont Rhodes Jr. So that's what we got here on slate for the Boxing Source. If y'all haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button if you like the content here on YouTube. And for the podcast itself, it'll be available in audio form later on here for people to enjoy or whatnot. I just do just copy and paste, you know what I mean? So that's all I do is just copy the MP3 file and then just paste it on here for Spotify or whatever it is. So y'all be able to listen to it in audio form if you missed it or missed the earlier portions of this particular podcast. But big thanks to the Boxing Academic, to Matt from Brunch Boxing for joining us here as a panelist for the February 23rd, 2025 edition of the Boxing Source podcast. I am pretty much like tired because all this stuff, man, it's back to back to back, all these events. It does take a lot of energy from you at times. So hopefully y'all be able to rejuvenate for this upcoming fight weekend. You'll see a number of content things there for fight week of Tank Davis versus Lamont Rhodes. And I'll catch y'all later, folks. Peace out.